Daniel's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard, not painful, just enough to stop her running. His touch burned against her skin, firm and unyielding. Amelia gasped, her heart slamming against her ribs. "You've been toying with me," he said, his voice husky now, stripped of restraint. "Walking naked. Bending over. Thinking I wouldn't notice." Her throat tightened. I wasn't." "Don't lie to me," he cut her off, his jaw tight. "I hear you. I feel you. Every single time." Amelia's lips parted, but no words came. Then his other hand slid to her waist, fingers brushing her bare thigh where the shirt ended. Heat shot through her like fire. "Tell me, Amelia," he whispered, his breath hot against her cheek. "Is this what you wanted all along?" Her defenses crumbled. She didn't answer with words. She leaned down, pressing her lips to his. The kiss was fire. Desperate. Messy. Welcome back to African Love Chronicles, your favorite place for stories soaked in passion and soul-deep romance. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to tell us your favorite part of the story. Your support keeps these love tales flowing strong. Special thanks to our channel members, thanks for showing your love and support. I love you all. Now, grab your popcorn and let's dive in. Amelia Johnson was never the kind of daughter her father wanted. While her stepsister Clarissa practiced piano in silk gowns, Amelia danced barefoot in the rain. While her stepmother Victoria perfected Clarissa's table manners, Amelia hid in her room, scribbling dreams of travel into a worn-out notebook. Her mother, the only person who had ever truly seen her, had died in a car accident when Amelia was just 7. Since then, Amelia had lived in the shadow of Victoria's cold eyes and Clarissa's perfect smile. "You're too wild, Amelia," her father often scolded. "One day your stubbornness will disgrace this family." But Amelia didn't care. She wanted freedom. She wanted love. Not an arranged marriage. Not a cage. The first time Amelia saw Daniel Allowell, it was at an engagement dinner thrown in her own house. He was Clarissa's fiancé then. Daniel was everything Clarissa bragged about, tall, confident, handsome, with a voice so smooth it could calm storms. He wore power like a second skin, and when he smiled, even the elders nodded in approval. Amelia had sat at the corner of the long dining table, sipping her wine quietly, watching as Clarissa clung to Daniel's arm, parading him like a prize. "This is the man I'll marry," Clarissa whispered loudly enough for Amelia to hear. "A man who sees me, adores me, and will give me the life I deserve." Amelia rolled her eyes. But deep down, she couldn't deny it, Daniel was magnetic. The kind of man who made women blush and men respect him. Clarissa was lucky. Or so it seemed. Then came the accident. One rainy night, Daniel's car skidded on the Lekki Ape Expressway. Metal crunched. Glass shattered. He survived, but his vision did not. The news spread like wildfire. Gossip circles buzzed, "The Allowell boy is blind. Can he still run the family business? Clarissa's engagement must be over." At first, Clarissa wept. She locked herself in her room, refusing to eat. But only days later, her tears dried, and her voice turned sharp. The Johnson mansion shook with her outburst. "I won't do it." Clarissa screamed, standing in the living room in her silk robe. Mascara streaked her face, but her chin was raised high. "I can't marry a man who can't even see me. What will I tell my friends? That I married a cripple? That I wasted my youth on pity?" Amelia, frozen at the top of the staircase, listened in horror. Clarissa's voice cut like knives. "I wanted a husband who would make me the envy of Lagos, not a burden I'd have to lead around. No, mother, I won't waste myself on him." Victoria hissed, glancing toward Chief Edward. "We cannot cancel this wedding. The Allowells will destroy us if the alliance breaks." Clarissa stamped her foot. "Then find someone else." "Because I refuse." And in that single moment, all eyes turned to Amelia. Her father's stare was heavy, his voice like iron. "If Clarissa won't marry Daniel, then Amelia will." Amelia gasped, stumbling down the last step. "What? Father, no. You can't." "You will," Edward cut her off, slamming his fist against the table. "You will marry Daniel, and you will honor this family." Amelia's heart pounded. "You're destroying my life." I don't love him, I don't even know him. Victoria's lips curled into a cruel smile. Then consider this your chance, Amelia. You've always been nothing more than a shadow in this house. At least now, you'll be useful. Amelia's voice broke. I won't do it. I won't. Her father leaned forward, his eyes burning. If you disgrace me, Amelia, you leave this house with nothing. No inheritance. No future. You'll be on the streets. Amelia's chest heaved. She looked at Clarissa, who smirked in victory. She looked at Victoria, who folded her arms with satisfaction. She looked at her father, who was unshakable. Her dreams of freedom, of travel, of building her own life, they crumbled in her hands like sand. The wedding came swiftly, like a punishment. Amelia walked down the aisle, every step heavy, her heart screaming. Guests whispered behind lace fans, "That's not the bride we expected. She's the spare. The blind man deserves pity, not this stubborn girl." Daniel stood tall at the altar, his dark glasses hiding his ruined eyes, his cane resting by his side. His face was unreadable, but his posture radiated quiet strength. When the priest asked Amelia if she would take Daniel as her husband, she hesitated so long the crowd stirred. Her father's cough echoed through the church like a gunshot. Her lips trembled. I do. That night, in the silence of Daniel's mansion, Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, her bangles heavy on her wrists. She hated the silence. She hated the marriage. She hated Daniel for being the reason her life had been stolen. Daniel sat across the room, his posture calm, his head slightly tilted as if listening to her very heartbeat. You don't have to be afraid, he said softly. Amelia jolted. His voice was calm, deep, steady, too steady. I'm not afraid, she said quickly, almost angrily. His lips curved, the faintest trace of a smile. You're trembling. Her chest tightened. How can he tell? He's blind. And in that moment, Amelia made herself a vow: if she was trapped in this cage, she would at least live carelessly. She would wear what she wanted, do as she pleased, walk around however she liked. He would never see her anyway. She had no idea how wrong she was. The first morning came too soon. Amelia stirred under the weight of silence, the faint scent of cedarwood clinging to the sheets. She blinked against the filtered light spilling through the tall curtains, momentarily disoriented. The bed beside her was empty, smooth, untouched, as though Daniel hadn't slept at all. She stretched, yawning, her nightshirt slipping off one shoulder. This wasn't home. This wasn't hers. The walls were too neat, the bookshelves too orderly, the air too still. From the other room came the soft, rhythmic tap of a cane. Daniel entered quietly, dressed already in a crisp shirt and dark trousers. His dark glasses caught the morning light, giving nothing away. Good morning, he said, his voice low, composed. Amelia blinked. You're dressed already? I don't sleep much, he replied, adjusting his cuff. Old habits. She hugged her knees, the sheet slipping down her thighs. Must be nice. I could sleep till noon. The faintest curve touched his lips. Yes. I can tell. She frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Your voice, he said, tilting his head slightly toward her. It's the kind of voice that still carries dreams when it wakes. Not discipline. Heat rose to her cheeks, though she masked it with a scoff. You talk too much for someone who's barely awake himself. Daniel didn't answer. He simply adjusted the cane in his hand, his expression unreadable. By breakfast, Amelia had decided she wouldn't tiptoe around him. If she had to live in this mansion, she would live the way she wanted. She walked into the dining room in a loose top, no bra beneath, the fabric brushing lightly against her skin. She didn't think twice, why should she? He couldn't see. The long dining table was set immaculately. Daniel sat at the head, posture straight, as though he were hosting foreign investors instead of sharing a meal with his reluctant wife. His hands moved with precision as he spread butter on toast, the knife making only the faintest sound against porcelain. Amelia plopped into a chair beside him, crossing her legs. Do you always eat like a board meeting is about to start? Daniel's head tilted just slightly, his lips curving faintly. And you? Do you always arrive at breakfast half-dressed? Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. Excuse me? I can hear the fabric when you move, he said calmly, sipping his tea. It's thin. Careless. not the attire of someone concerned with appearances. Her stomach tightened. For a moment, she wondered if he was bluffing. Then she forced a laugh, masking her unease. Well, lucky for me, you can't see. Daniel set down his cup with quiet finality. Sight isn't the only way to notice someone. Amelia's throat went dry. She stabbed at her eggs, pretending not to care. But her chest buzzed with something she couldn't name, unease, irritation, maybe, curiosity. Days blended into each other, and Amelia grew more at ease in her new cage. The mansion staff never entered their private wing without being called, so she walked around however she pleased. Some mornings she padded barefoot through the bedroom in nothing but her panties, singing to herself as she rummaged through the wardrobe. Other times, she curled up on the rug with a magazine, her tank top riding high on her stomach. Daniel rarely spoke. He often sat in his armchair near the window, cane resting against his leg, listening more than saying. His face gave little away, but sometimes, when Amelia bent to pick something off the floor or tossed her hair over her shoulder, his jaw tightened, or his grip on the armrest hardened for a second too long. She never noticed. But he did. At night, Amelia would climb into bed with little ceremony, turning her back to him, scrolling her phone until sleep claimed her. Daniel lay still on his side, listening to the faint rhythm of her breath. She smelled of coconut oil and stubbornness, and though he never reached for her, every nerve in his body was aware of her presence. It happened on a humid evening. Amelia had just showered, steam still clinging to her skin. She came out in only panties, a towel draped loosely around her shoulders. Humming softly, she padded across the room, water trailing down her thighs. She tossed the towel aside, her back turned as she reached for her lotion. Behind her, Daniel shifted. His breath caught, almost imperceptible. His hand flexed against the sheets, his knuckles whitening as he tried, failed, to remain composed. Amelia stilled, bottle in hand. Something felt different. She turned her head slightly, just enough to glimpse him. He was sitting rigidly on the bed, his chest rising too quickly, the fabric of his trousers betraying him. Her heart slammed in her chest. No, no, that's impossible. He can't see me. He can't. The room felt smaller, charged. Amelia's pulse thundered in her ears. She clutched the lotion to her chest, suddenly aware of every inch of bare skin. Daniel's voice broke the silence, low and steady, though his jaw was clenched tight. Go on, he said softly. Don't stop because of me. Her breath hitched, her throat dry. For the first time, Amelia wondered if her husband was truly blind, or if he'd been watching her all along. Amelia hadn't meant to think about it. But every night since that humid evening, when she saw the truth of his body's reaction, the thought burned at the back of her mind, what if Daniel isn't blind at all? It kept her awake. She told herself it was about revenge, a way to catch him in a lie, to prove he wasn't the calm, untouchable man he pretended to be. But deep down, Amelia knew the truth. There was a part of her, a wild, restless part, that wanted to see him lose control. That wanted him to want her. The next morning, she tried her first real test. She walked into the room completely naked, a towel draped lazily over her shoulder, pretending she hadn't noticed him seated in his armchair by the window. Her heart thundered. Every step felt louder than it was. She opened the wardrobe, stretching up on her toes, her bare back arched, skin glowing in the early light. Daniel didn't move. He sat perfectly still, cane across his lap, face unreadable behind the dark glasses. Amelia's pulse raced. Nothing? Not even a twitch? She bent forward deliberately, her backside full in his view, pretending to reach for a dress at the back of the closet. Heat surged through her cheeks. Behind her, there was the faintest sound, Daniel's breath, sharp and quick, before he cleared his throat and shifted in his seat. Amelia smirked to herself. Got you. That evening, she tried again. She wore the thinnest nightgown she owned, pale silk that clung to her curves and left little to imagination. She wandered around the room humming, bending here, leaning there, acting casual but watching him from the corner of her eye. When she bent to pick up her phone from the floor, she swayed just a little too slowly. Daniel's jaw clenched. His hand gripped the edge of the bed, the tendons tight. He said nothing. But Amelia's whole body hummed. So he feels it. He feels me. By the third day, she wasn't even pretending anymore. She sat on the bed in just her panties, lotioning her thighs slowly, deliberately, her eyes flicking to him every few seconds. Why am I doing this? She asked herself. Do I want him to touch me? Do I want him to admit he can see me? Or, do I just want him to stop being so calm, so untouchable? She bit her lip, smoothing lotion higher, almost daring him. Daniel shifted in his chair. His chest rose and fell, steady, but his grip on the cane tightened until his knuckles were white. Finally, his voice came, rougher than usual. Are you enjoying yourself, Amelia? Her head snapped up. What do you mean? You've been restless. His head tilted slightly toward her. Leaving yourself exposed. Moving carelessly. Almost as if you're trying to get a reaction. Her pulse skipped. Heat climbed her neck. Don't flatter yourself, she shot back quickly. But her hands trembled as she capped the lotion. Because she knew he was right. That night, she lay awake, her body buzzing, her mind spinning in circles. It had started as a trap. A way to prove he wasn't blind. But now, lying inches away from him in the same bed, she couldn't lie to herself anymore. She wanted him. She wanted Daniel Allowale to stop pretending, to pin her down, to show her she wasn't invisible. And the thought terrified her more than the marriage itself. The storm had been brewing for days. Every look. Every brush of silence. Every unspoken word between them. Amelia had told herself she was testing him, but the truth sat heavy in her chest. She wanted him. Wanted the man she'd sworn she hated, the man her sister had thrown away, the man who carried himself with maddening calm even while she tried to shake him. That night, she decided to push until something finally broke. She waited until after dinner, until the staff had left them alone in their wing of the mansion. Daniel sat in his usual armchair by the window, cane resting against the wall, a glass of whiskey untouched at his side. Amelia stepped out of the bathroom slowly, deliberately. She wore nothing but one of his white shirts, the buttons loose, the hem grazing her thighs. Her hair was damp, her skin still glowing from the shower. She moved around the room barefoot, pretending to search for something on the dresser, bending lower than necessary, humming under her breath. Her heart raced, but her face carried a mask of ease. Daniel's jaw was tight, though his body remained still. Amelia straightened, her lips curving into the faintest smile. Are you going to sit there all night, or will you say something? His head tilted. What would you like me to say? That you notice me. Her words slipped out before she could stop them. Silence. Then, Daniel's voice, low and rough, who says I don't? Amelia's breath caught. The air between them thickened, sharp and electric. She crossed the room slowly, her bare legs brushing against the cool air. She stopped right in front of him, her shirt hanging loose, the soft scent of her lotion rising. You can't see me, she whispered, testing him, daring him. So what is it you notice? Daniel's lips curved, but it wasn't a smile. It was hunger held on a leash. Your footsteps, he murmured. The way they hesitate when you're nervous. The way they drag when you're angry. Her pulse skipped. Your voice, he continued, his tone deepening. It sharpens when you lie. Softens when you're unsure. He leaned forward slightly, his face inches from hers. And your silence, Amelia, your silence screams louder than anything. Her knees weakened. She should have stepped back, but she couldn't. The silence between them broke. Daniel's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard, not painful, just enough to stop her running. His touch burned against her skin, firm and unyielding. Amelia gasped, her heart slamming against her ribs. You've been toying with me, he said, his voice husky now, stripped of restraint. Walking naked. Bending over. Thinking I wouldn't notice. Her throat tightened. I wasn't. Don't lie to me, he cut her off, his jaw tight. I hear you. I feel you. Every single time. Amelia's lips parted, but no words came. Then his other hand slid to her waist, fingers brushing her bare thigh where the shirt ended. Heat shot through her like fire. Tell me, Amelia, he whispered, his breath hot against her cheek. Is this what you wanted all along? Her defenses crumbled. She didn't answer with words. She leaned down, pressing her lips to his. The kiss was fire. Desperate. Messy. The weeks of tension exploding in a single moment. Daniel pulled her closer, his grip firm, his control finally shattered. Amelia moaned softly, clutching at his shirt, her body trembling as his lips moved with unrestrained hunger. For the first time, she didn't feel unseen. She felt devoured. They broke apart only when air became scarce. Amelia's chest heaved, her lips swollen, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and longing. Daniel sat back slowly, his breathing uneven, his hands still resting on her waist. He tilted his head toward her, dark glasses hiding his eyes but not the intensity in his voice. "Careful," he murmured. "You play with fire, you might just get burned." Amelia swallowed hard, her body still trembling. But in her heart, she knew one thing for certain. She wanted to burn. Amelia's lips still tingled from the kiss long after it ended. She sat frozen on Daniel's lap, breathless, staring at him like she was seeing him for the first time. He hadn't pushed her away. He hadn't acted shocked. No, he had kissed her back, fiercely, like a man starving. Her body trembled as his hands stayed at her waist, steady, warm, grounding her when everything inside felt unsteady. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her skin. "Say it, Amelia. Say you want me." Her heart pounded. She wanted to deny it, to hold on to her pride, but the words slipped out before she could stop them. "I want you." That was all it took. In one swift motion, Daniel pulled her closer, her body pressed against his. His lips found hers again, rougher this time, hungrier. Amelia gasped, clutching his shoulders, letting herself drown in the heat of him. The kiss deepened, his tongue brushing against hers, sending shivers down her spine. She moaned softly, her legs trembling, and Daniel groaned against her mouth, his control snapping further. Amelia had never felt like this. She had thought she could tease him, test him, control the game. But here, now, with his hands gripping her thighs and his mouth devouring hers, she realized the truth. She wasn't in control at all. And she didn't want to be. Daniel shifted, lifting her effortlessly. Amelia gasped as he set her down on the bed, his body hovering over hers. His fingers traced the line of her jaw, down her neck, lingering at the open buttons of his shirt she wore. "You've been tempting me for weeks," he murmured, voice low and dangerous. "Do you know how hard it's been to resist?" Her breath caught. "Then why did you?" "Because I wanted you to come to me," he admitted, his lips brushing her ear. "I wanted you to want this as much as I do." Amelia's eyes fluttered shut, her body arching at his words. "I do," she whispered. "I want this. I want you." The rest of the night blurred into heat and sensation. Daniel's lips trailed down her collarbone, each kiss leaving sparks on her skin. His hands explored with reverence and hunger, memorizing her curves as though sight was unnecessary. Amelia gasped, writhed, laughed breathlessly, every touch unraveling her. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, guiding him, needing more. And when he finally entered her world completely, when their bodies fused in a rhythm both wild and tender, Amelia cried out, clutching him as though she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. The mansion walls seemed to hum with their voices, the storm outside forgotten, only the storm between them real. Hours later, they lay tangled in the sheets, sweat cooling on their skin. Amelia's head rested on Daniel's chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. Her body still tingled, her lips swollen, her mind a haze of disbelief and satisfaction. Daniel's fingers stroked her hair lazily. "You're quiet," he murmured. Amelia bit her lip. I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything," he said softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Just stay." Her throat tightened. For the first time since the forced marriage, Amelia didn't feel trapped. She felt wanted. Desired. Seen. The morning sun spilled through the wide curtains, golden light flooding the bedroom. Amelia stirred, her body aching pleasantly, memories of the night before warming her skin like a secret fire. She blinked lazily, still half asleep, until she felt it, the soft press of lips against her shoulder. Her eyes fluttered open. Daniel was leaning over her, his face close, his breath warm against her skin. "Good morning," he murmured, his voice low and husky. Amelia's cheeks flushed. She shifted beneath the sheets, suddenly shy despite everything they had done hours ago. "You're awake early." "I didn't sleep much," he said with a small smile. His hand brushed a stray curl from her face. You're too beautiful when you sleep. Her heart skipped, her breath catching. No one had ever said it like that before. Not as a compliment to her body, but to her. Beautiful, she echoed, her lips tugging into a shy smile. Daniel's expression softened. More beautiful than you realize. Amelia looked at him for a long moment, her chest tightening. Then the words tumbled out, fragile and uncertain. If you can see me like this, Daniel, then why do you still act blind? Silence filled the room. Daniel sat back slowly, his hand still resting on hers. His jaw tightened, as though weighing whether to tell her the truth. Finally, he exhaled. Because I was blind. After the accident, the doctor said I would never recover. For months, the world was nothing but darkness. I believed it too. Amelia's lips parted, shock flashing in her eyes. But then, slowly, pieces came back. Blurry shapes. Colors. Shadows. Until one morning, I opened my eyes, and the world wasn't gone anymore. Her breath caught. So, you've been able to see? Yes, he admitted softly. Not perfectly. Not always clearly. But enough. Her pulse hammered. Then why keep it a secret? Daniel's lips curved, but there was sadness in it. Because when people think you're blind, they show you who they really are. No masks. No pretenses. They think you can't see, so they stop performing. His hand tightened gently around hers. That's how I saw you. Amelia froze. Me? Daniel nodded slowly. Clarissa was all shine and show. But you were real. Wild. Unapologetic. Even when you tried to hate me, you were more honest than anyone else in this house. That's why I wanted you, Amelia. Even before the accident. Daniel's lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. You want the truth? I'll tell you. Amelia nodded, her chest tight. He drew in a slow breath. I was engaged to Clarissa because that's what our families arranged. Your father and her mother wanted the perfect match. The polished daughter for the wealthy businessman. It wasn't my choice, Amelia. It was never my choice. Her brow furrowed. Then why didn't you say something? Why didn't you fight it? Daniel chuckled softly, but there was no joy in it. Because in families like ours, you don't fight. You play the part. Clarissa was proper. She looked good on paper. And you, his voice softened. You were too free for them. Too wild. Too real. Amelia blinked, her throat tightening. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek, his touch gentle but sure. But do you want to know the truth, Amelia? Even when Clarissa was paraded in front of me, it was you I noticed. The way you laughed without caring who stared. The way you spoke your mind even when it got you into trouble. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were just, you. Her lips parted, her breath caught. Daniel's voice dropped lower, intimate. And that terrified me. Because I didn't just notice you. I wanted you. Long before the accident. Long before this marriage. I just didn't think I could have you. Amelia's eyes burned with sudden tears. So all this time, I thought I was second choice. His hand tightened around hers. No. You were always my first choice. You just didn't know it. The weight of his words slammed into her. The bitterness she had carried, that she was the unwanted bride, the leftover, cracked and crumbled. In its place bloomed something raw and terrifying, hope. Amelia's voice shook. Then why keep it from me? Daniel's jaw tightened. Because I needed you to come to me freely. Not as a woman forced. Not as a replacement. I needed you to want me, Amelia. The way I've always wanted you. Her tears spilled over then, hot and unstoppable. She leaned forward, kissing him with trembling lips, her heart breaking open as she whispered against his mouth. I do. I want you. The days after that night were unlike anything Amelia had ever known. She woke each morning to Daniel's lips on her forehead, his warm breath tickling her skin. He would whisper, "Good morning, my wild one," and she would pretend to groan and push him away, even though her heart fluttered each time. At breakfast, he no longer sat far off in his study. He sat across from her, asking what she wanted to eat, teasing her when she loaded her plate too much, sliding his toast onto her plate with a smirk when she reached for it. "You're going to make me fat," she pouted one morning. "Good," he said, sipping his coffee. "Then no man will look at you but me." Her cheeks burned, but she laughed anyway. Daniel spoiled her. Not with words alone, but with little gestures that made Amelia feel like she mattered. He listened when she talked about things she missed. When she mentioned how she hadn't bought herself new shoes in years, the next day 3 boxes arrived in their room. When she sighed wistfully about her mother's old bracelet, stolen long ago by Victoria and gifted to Clarissa, Daniel surprised her with a delicate chain of white gold, clasping it on her wrist himself. "Better than the past," he said simply. Amelia melted into him that night, her kisses grateful, her body answering every touch he gave her. Then came the shopping trip. It was a Saturday, and for once, Daniel insisted on taking her out. "Pick anywhere," he said, guiding her hand into his as they walked through the massive shopping mall in Victoria Island. Amelia felt like a child in Wonderland. She darted from boutique to boutique, holding up dresses, earrings, handbags, laughing so freely that strangers turned to stare. Daniel followed behind her calmly, his lips quirking into a smile every time she squealed with delight. When she hesitated over a pair of red designer heels, stroking the soft leather like a forbidden treasure, Daniel waved the attendant over. "We'll take those," he said. Amelia spun around. "Daniel, no. They're too expensive." "Do you want them?" he asked, his tone flat, direct. Her lips parted. "Yes." "Then they're yours." Her throat tightened as the attendant packed them. Amelia threw her arms around his neck right there in the store, kissing his cheek as people whispered. She didn't care. She felt like the only woman alive. And that was when Clarissa appeared. Her heels clicked against the tiled floor as she approached, her designer bag swinging at her side. She wore a smug smile that faltered only briefly when she saw Amelia holding Daniel's arm. Well, Clarissa said, her voice dripping with honeyed poison. "I didn't know my dear sister had become such a shopping queen." Amelia stiffened, her grip tightening on Daniel's arm. Daniel turned his head slightly, his voice calm but cool. "Clarissa." She tilted her head, ignoring Amelia, her eyes locked on him. "It's been a while, Daniel. You look strong. Handsome. I've missed our talks." Amelia's stomach churned, heat rising to her cheeks. But Daniel didn't falter. He reached for Amelia's hand, lacing their fingers together, and turned fully toward his wife. "I don't remember those talks," he said evenly. "But I do know this." He lifted Amelia's hand to his lips, brushing it with a kiss that made her knees weak. "My wife deserves everything in this store, and more." Gasps rippled among onlookers. Clarissa's smile cracked, her face paling, then flushing with fury. Amelia fought back a victorious smirk, leaning into Daniel's side as he led her away. Behind them, Clarissa stood frozen, her nails digging into her palm. Her perfect facade shattered. And in that moment, she made a silent vow, she would make Amelia pay. The mansion no longer felt like a prison. Every corner that had once echoed with Amelia's loneliness now carried traces of laughter, whispers, and the kind of heat that made her blush when she thought about it too long. She and Daniel had built a rhythm, not forced, not awkward, but something that felt startlingly natural. In the mornings, he woke her with kisses. Sometimes on her lips, sometimes at the hollow of her throat, sometimes on her shoulder until she squirmed and tried to push him away. "You're insatiable," she teased one morning, giggling as he nuzzled her neck. "Only with you," he murmured, pulling her closer, his hand roaming beneath the sheets until she gasped and smacked his chest. They would tumble into laughter, then into heat, their mornings stretching long past breakfast. In the afternoons, Daniel spoiled her with freedom she hadn't expected. He arranged for a private driver to take them around Lagos. Together, they strolled through markets where Amelia bartered playfully with vendors, her laughter drawing curious stares. Daniel, amused, would quietly purchase everything she argued over, having it delivered later to the mansion. When she admired art in a gallery, he bought the painting without hesitation. When she sighed at the smell of roasted plantain on the street, he bought 3, feeding her pieces with his own hands while she blushed under the watchful eyes of strangers. "You don't have to do this," she whispered once, overwhelmed. Daniel only smiled faintly. "I don't have to. I want to." Her heart swelled so much it frightened her. At night, their bedroom became a universe of its own. Sometimes slow, sometimes urgent, always intense, their passion crackled like fire. Amelia learned how to read Daniel's touch, his breath, the subtle ways his control faltered when he wanted her too much. One night, after he had left her breathless and trembling, she lay on his chest and whispered, "I never imagined marriage could feel like this." Daniel kissed her hair. "Neither did I." But it wasn't just desire. It was in the way he asked her opinion on business matters, listening seriously to her thoughts. It was in how he dismissed Victoria's demands with a calm authority that left Amelia stunned. It was in the way he always chose her, in public and private, without hesitation. Amelia, who had once sworn she would never belong, found herself belonging more deeply than she thought possible. Yet, sometimes, late at night when he thought she slept, Amelia caught Daniel lying awake, staring at the ceiling. His hand would grip hers tightly, as though holding on to something fragile. It made her chest ache with questions she wasn't ready to ask. Because even in happiness, a whisper lingered, "How long can this last?" One Friday morning, Amelia was sipping her tea lazily by the window when Daniel strolled in, already dressed in his crisp shirt and slacks. "Pack a bag," he said simply. She blinked. "What?" He leaned against the doorframe, a teasing smirk on his lips. "You heard me. Clothes, shoes, whatever you like. We're leaving this house for the weekend." Amelia's jaw dropped. "Leaving? Where?" "You'll see." Her heart leapt, excitement and disbelief mingling. For years, she had been trapped in this mansion like a bird in a gilded cage. Now Daniel was offering her escape. 2 hours later, they were driving out of Lagos in Daniel's sleek black car, the city melting into open roads and lush green countryside. Amelia pressed her face to the window, grinning like a child. "Where are we going?" she asked for the 10th time. Daniel chuckled. "You'll ruin the surprise if I tell you." She smacked his arm lightly. "You're impossible. And you're impatient," he teased. When the car finally rolled to a stop, Amelia gasped. Before her stood a sprawling beachfront villa, its white walls gleaming under the afternoon sun, the waves crashing just beyond its terrace. "Daniel," she whispered, breathless. This is heaven." He reached for her hand. "No. This is just for us." That weekend was unlike anything she'd ever known. They walked barefoot on the sand, the salty breeze tangling Amelia's hair as Daniel held her close. They swam together in the warm ocean, Daniel laughing when she splashed water in his face, pulling her into his arms until their lips met under the setting sun. At night, they made love with the windows open, the sound of the waves mingling with her moans, his voice whispering her name like a vow. Amelia felt cherished. Desired. Chosen. For the first time, she allowed herself to think, maybe this is real. Maybe this is mine to keep. One evening, as they sat on the terrace watching the stars, Daniel grew quiet. His hand tightened around hers, his gaze fixed on the dark horizon. "What's on your mind?" Amelia asked softly. He exhaled slowly. "The accident." Her chest tightened. He rarely spoke of it. "I lost more than my sight that day," he continued, his voice low. "I lost trust. Friends I thought would stand by me disappeared. Even Clarissa," his lips twisted bitterly, "she couldn't stomach a broken man." Amelia's heart ached. She reached for his face, turning it gently toward her. "You're not broken, Daniel. Not to me." For a long moment, he simply looked at her, something raw and vulnerable flickering in his eyes. Then he kissed her with a hunger that stole her breath, pulling her onto his lap as though anchoring himself to her. The weekend ended in laughter and tangled sheets, but as they drove back toward Lagos, Amelia spotted something that chilled her blood. A black SUV trailed their car for several miles, keeping just enough distance. She caught a glimpse of tinted windows, her stomach nodding. "Daniel," she whispered. "That car, it's been behind us a long time." He didn't turn, his jaw tightening. "Ignore it." But Amelia couldn't. The glow from the beach still clung to Amelia when they returned to Lagos. Her skin carried the warmth of the sun, her laughter was lighter, and her heart, though cautious, felt fuller than it ever had. Daniel noticed. He couldn't stop touching her, whether it was his hand at the small of her back, or his fingers brushing hers at dinner. Even the staff whispered about how different the mansion felt, how alive it had become. But not everyone celebrated their happiness. Clarissa seethed. She had watched them at the mall, watched Daniel kiss Amelia's hand as though she were royalty. And when she heard of their secret weekend getaway, oh, how the whispers traveled, the jealousy nearly drove her mad. Her mother's words echoed, happiness never lasts. Push her, and she'll fall. So Clarissa plotted. The opportunity came a week later. Daniel was invited to a gala, one of those high-profile events where Lagos elites paraded their wealth and power. He rarely attended, but this time he agreed, insisting Amelia accompany him. Amelia hesitated, nerves twisting in her stomach. She had never felt like she belonged in those glittering circles. But Daniel brushed her fears aside, kissing her forehead. "You belong anywhere I am," he said. Those words carried her through the night as she dressed in a flowing emerald gown Daniel had chosen for her. The pendant he'd gifted her sparkled at her throat. When they entered the ballroom, heads turned. Whispers rose. Daniel, the once reclusive businessman, had returned, and at his side was his radiant wife. Amelia held her chin high, her arm linked with his. For once, she wasn't the forgotten daughter. She was seen. And then Clarissa appeared. She swept into the gala in a gown of shimmering gold, her beauty undeniable, her smile sharp. She approached them with perfect poise, her eyes flickering between Amelia and Daniel. "Daniel," she purred, ignoring Amelia completely. "It's been too long." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Not long enough." Amelia felt pride swell at his dismissal, until Clarissa finally tilted her head toward her stepsister, voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I must say, Amelia," Clarissa began sweetly, "you wear desperation well." Gasps rippled. Amelia stiffened. Clarissa's smile widened. "Oh, don't look so shocked. Everyone knows you weren't meant to be here. You weren't the chosen bride. You were forced." She let the word linger, poisonous. "Our dear father and mother made sure of that." Poor Amelia. Always the spare. The room went still. Whispers spread like wildfire, guests leaning closer to one another, their eyes darting between Amelia and Daniel. Amelia's throat closed, her face burning. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but her voice caught in her chest. Clarissa's eyes gleamed as she leaned in, her tone dripping false sympathy. "Don't be ashamed, sister. You only did what you had to do. A woman like you doesn't turn down wealth and power when it's handed to her, blind husband or not." The crowd gasped again, the venom in her words slicing deep. Amelia's vision blurred. She felt the weight of every stare, every whisper. The shame she thought she'd buried came roaring back, that she had been forced, that she was never wanted, that she was just a replacement. Daniel's hand suddenly tightened on hers, grounding her. His voice rang out, sharp as steel. "Enough." The crowd hushed. Daniel's gaze cut through Clarissa like fire. "You think you can humiliate my wife? You think lies whispered sweetly make them truth?" He pulled Amelia closer, his arm firm around her waist. "This woman is mine. My wife. My first and only choice." Clarissa flinched, but her smirk returned. She leaned closer, just for Amelia to hear. "Then why," she whispered, "doesn't it feel that way?" Amelia's heart shattered. Because deep down, Clarissa had struck the wound Amelia still carried, the wound that love alone hadn't fully healed. The gala ended, but the whispers did not. Amelia barely remembered how she made it to the car. The chandeliers, the clinking glasses, the shocked faces of Lagos's elite, they all blurred into a haze of humiliation. She sat in the back seat, her emerald gown bunched in her fists, staring out the tinted window as if the city lights might swallow her shame. Beside her, Daniel's jaw was tight, his hand clenched into a fist on his knee. The silence between them was thick, heavy, choking. "Finally," he said, low and dangerous, "she will regret this." Amelia flinched, her voice breaking. But she wasn't lying, Daniel. Was she? He turned sharply, his eyes burning. "Amelia." She was right. Amelia's voice cracked as tears spilled over. "I wasn't the chosen one. I was forced. My father threatened me, my stepmother hated me. And you," her chest heaved, every word cutting her. "You didn't even fight for me. You let them throw me at you like scraps." Daniel's heart twisted. He reached for her, but she pulled back, pressing herself against the door. For a long moment, he stared at her, his wild, stubborn, wounded wife, and realized how deeply Clarissa's poison had sunk into her. He spoke softly, his voice trembling with a rare vulnerability. Amelia. I didn't fight because I thought you deserved better than a broken man. I thought if I stayed silent, you'd be free. But when they forced you to me, I swore I'd never let you feel unwanted again. Amelia's sobs quieted, but her eyes still shimmered with doubt. Then why does it hurt so much? Daniel leaned forward, cupping her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. Because Clarissa knows your scars. And she used them. But hear me now, Amelia, his voice was fierce, unyielding. You are not scraps. You are not the spare. You are my wife. My only. And I will burn the world before I let her take that from you. The car fell silent again, except for Amelia's trembling breath. Slowly, she let him pull her into his chest, her tears soaking his shirt as his hand stroked her hair. But behind his calm embrace, Daniel's mind burned with fury. Clarissa had gone too far. And this time, he would not just defend Amelia. He would destroy anyone who dared touch her dignity again. The next morning, the mansion was silent. Amelia didn't come down for breakfast. She stayed curled in their bed, staring at the ceiling as Clarissa's words replayed over and over in her mind, always the spare. Never the choice. She touched the sapphire pendant at her throat, the one Daniel had gifted her, and for the first time, it felt heavy. Daniel entered quietly, carrying a tray. Fresh pap, akara, slices of mango, her favorites. He set it down on the bedside table and sat beside her, his large hand covering hers. Eat something, he said softly. She shook her head. I can't. Then listen. Her eyes flicked to him. His gaze was hard now, his voice edged with steel. Clarissa and Victoria think they can shame you into disappearing. They're wrong. I won't allow it. And Amelia, he leaned closer, his words deliberate, you will hold your head high, because you are my wife. Not a replacement. Not a spare. My wife. Her throat tightened. The conviction in his tone rattled something deep in her. For the first time since the gala, she sat up. And if they come at me again? Daniel's lips curved into something dangerous. Then they'll regret it. That same day, Daniel made his first quiet move. He called his lawyer, his voice calm but cold. I want a full audit of Victoria's businesses. Every account, every contract. Find her weak spot. The lawyer hesitated. Sir, Victoria is connected. Daniel's tone darkened. So am I. Do it. He ended the call, his jaw set. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about cutting out the rot that had poisoned Amelia's life for years. 2 nights later, the perfect opportunity arrived. Another event, smaller, more intimate, was held at a luxury hotel. Daniel insisted they attend. Amelia almost refused, fear still coiled in her chest, but the fire in his eyes gave her strength. You don't have to fight them alone anymore, he told her. But you do have to be seen. Walk beside me, Amelia. Not behind me. So she dressed in a fitted black gown that shimmered under the lights, her hair pinned elegantly, her eyes lined with determination. When they entered, whispers rippled again, but this time Amelia walked tall, her arm looped through Daniel's. Clarissa and Victoria were there, of course, sipping champagne in a corner. Their smiles froze when they saw Amelia glowing, not broken. Clarissa approached, her smirk sharp. Back again, sister? I thought the last gala would have humbled you. Amelia's pulse quickened, but she remembered Daniel's words, walk beside me, not behind me. She tilted her chin, her voice clear. Funny. I thought your absence at Daniel's side already humbled you. Gasps rippled. Daniel's lips curved in a small, approving smile as Clarissa's face darkened. Victoria stepped forward, her tone sweet but cutting. Careful, Amelia. Don't forget whose table fed you all these years. Amelia's chest tightened, but before she could answer, Daniel's voice sliced through the air. She forgets nothing, Victoria. But soon, the world will remember who you really are. Victoria's glass trembled slightly in her hand, though her smile held. Clarissa forced a laugh, but her eyes burned. This isn't over. No, Daniel said, his voice low, lethal. It's only just beginning. That night, as they drove home, Amelia leaned against Daniel's shoulder, a small smile tugging at her lips. You stood up for me, she whispered. Daniel kissed her hair. No, Amelia. We stood up for us. And this is only the first strike. Daniel sat in his study late into the night, papers spread across his desk, his jaw tight as his lawyer delivered the report. Victoria's businesses look clean on the surface, the lawyer said, but dig deeper and you'll see she's been laundering money through shell companies. And your father-in-law, he hesitated, lowering his voice, is tied into it. He signed several fake contracts, some under the table. Daniel's eyes hardened. Amelia's father? Yes. He's knee-deep in this. If this goes public, his reputation will be ruined. Daniel leaned back, his fingers steepled. For years, Amelia had carried shame placed on her shoulders by that very man, her own father. And now, the truth was in his hands. Prepare everything, Daniel said. His voice was calm, but the fire in his eyes was merciless. If he wanted to sell his daughter's life to keep Victoria happy, let him pay the price for it. The next morning, Amelia found Daniel staring out of their balcony, his suit jacket draped over the chair. You didn't sleep, she whispered, walking to him. He turned, his eyes softening when they fell on her. I've been thinking. About Clarissa? About your father. Amelia froze. A lifetime of mixed feelings rushed through her, longing for his love, the sting of neglect, the memory of him standing silently while Victoria threatened her into marriage. What about him? She asked, her voice shaky. Daniel's hand brushed hers, grounding her. He betrayed you. He chose greed over his daughter. And Amelia, his tone darkened, I can expose him. Her breath caught. The little girl in her still longed for her father's approval, but the woman she had become remembered the tears, the abandonment, the silence when she begged him to stop the marriage. Will it hurt him? She whispered. Yes. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of distant traffic. Amelia closed her eyes, her throat tight. Then do it. Let him feel what I felt. Daniel pulled her into his arms, proud of her strength but aching for her pain. I promise you, he murmured into her hair, they will all answer for what they did to you. Later that week, Daniel arranged a quiet but very public meeting. A business luncheon, attended by Lagos's most influential men. Amelia's father was there, seated proudly at the head of the table, until Daniel's lawyer arrived with documents. Gentlemen, Daniel said smoothly, his hand resting over Amelia's. It seems there's been a misunderstanding in recent contracts. One that ties back to Mr. Edward, my wife's father. Edward paled, his eyes darting between the pages and the staring faces around him. Whispers started. Accusations. Amelia watched silently, her heart pounding. For the first time, she saw her father cornered, stripped of the power he'd once lorded over her. Edward looked up, his voice trembling. Daniel, please, this will destroy me. Daniel's gaze was ice. You destroyed yourself the moment you sacrificed your daughter for profit. Consider this, balance. That night, Amelia stood by their bedroom window, her arms wrapped around herself. I should feel happy, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. But all I feel is empty. He was still my father, Daniel. Daniel walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You don't have to bury the pain tonight. Let yourself feel it. But remember, this isn't just revenge. This is justice. Amelia leaned into him, her tears finally spilling. Then promise me something. Anything. Promise me this doesn't end until Clarissa and Victoria are finished too. Daniel's lips brushed her temple, his whisper fierce. I promise. For 2 weeks, the city buzzed with whispers. Edward's fall from grace was everywhere, newspapers, gossip blogs, whispered conversations at country clubs. Victoria, furious at the humiliation, began avoiding public appearances. But Clarissa? Clarissa burned. She replayed every moment in her mind, Amelia glowing in that black gown, Daniel's fierce defense, the way people's eyes turned toward Amelia instead of her. Clarissa's fury festered until it became obsession. She thinks she's won, Clarissa hissed one night in her bedroom, pacing like a caged lioness. She thinks a spare can ever replace me. Her nails dug into her palms as a dangerous idea formed. If Daniel wanted to protect Amelia's dignity, then Clarissa would shred it. Not with whispers this time. Not with subtle digs. She would cut Amelia in the one place no woman could bear, her womb, her worth, her ability to be the wife Daniel needed. The opportunity came on a warm Saturday afternoon. Amelia had insisted on a quiet day, no galas, no tension, just a normal outing. She and Daniel strolled through the shopping district in Victoria Island, hand in hand, stopping at boutiques and laughing over shoes and jewelry. Daniel, true to his promise, spoiled her shamelessly: silk scarves, a perfume she'd once admired, even a custom-made handbag. Amelia's heart swelled as she watched him, the man who had once been silent and cold, now pouring his affection into every gesture. She felt seen, chosen, loved. Until Clarissa appeared. She emerged from the entrance of a high-end boutique, her heels clicking against the polished tiles, her gown shimmering like molten gold. She walked straight to them, ignoring the crowd that immediately hushed to watch. Well, Clarissa drawled, her eyes sweeping Amelia from head to toe. The charity case does shine, doesn't she? Tell me, Daniel, how does it feel to waste your fortune dressing up a beggar? Amelia stiffened. The crowd gasped. Daniel's arm tightened around her waist, his voice steady. Careful, Clarissa. But Clarissa wasn't here for subtlety. She stepped closer, her eyes glittering with venom. You think all this matters? The clothes, the jewelry, the cars? At the end of the day, Daniel, she'll never give you what you want most. Her words were sharp enough to draw blood. The crowd leaned in, hungry for scandal. Amelia's throat closed. What are you talking about? Clarissa smirked, savoring the moment. Oh, poor Amelia. Did he not tell you? Did no one tell you? She tilted her head, her voice loud, clear, merciless. You'll never give him children. Never. Because your dear stepmother made sure of it long ago. The world tilted. Amelia froze, her pulse pounding in her ears. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Daniel's expression darkened into something deadly. Clarissa's smile widened, triumph blazing in her eyes. Yes. That little illness Victoria claimed you had as a teenager? The one she treated you for in secret? It wasn't an illness. It was prevention. She made sure you could never bear a child. And you didn't even know. Amelia's knees buckled. Daniel caught her instantly, fury radiating off him like heat. Clarissa leaned in, her whisper razor sharp. Now tell me, Amelia. Who's the spare now? The drive home was suffocating. Amelia sat curled in the corner of the car, her hands trembling in her lap, her eyes wide and glassy as if her entire world had shattered in a single sentence. Her voice was barely a whisper. Daniel, is it true? Daniel's heart clenched. He had never seen her so fragile, so broken. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back as if afraid of the answer he might give. Please, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Tell me. Is it true? For the first time in years, Daniel felt powerless. He wanted to deny it, to shield her with comforting words, but he couldn't. He didn't know. His jaw tightened, rage burning in his chest. I don't know yet, Amelia, he said finally, his voice low but steady. But I will find out. Tonight. And if it's true, if she really did this to you, I swear she'll regret it. Her shoulders shook with sobs. And if it is true, she whispered, her voice breaking. She took everything from me. My childhood, my freedom, and now, my future. She wailed. What am I to you then, Daniel? A woman who can't give you children? What am I worth? Daniel's chest ached as he pulled her into his arms, holding her against him even as she trembled. His lips brushed her temple, his voice fierce and unyielding. You are everything, he said. My wife. My heart. My world. Children or not, Amelia, nothing changes that. Nothing. But Amelia shook her head, broken. The world won't see it that way. They'll call me barren. A failure. Just like Clarissa said, always the spare. Her sobs tore at him, but beneath his grief, his anger blazed hotter. His wife's pain wasn't her fault. It was Victoria's. And Victoria would pay. Later that night, Daniel went alone. He arrived at Victoria's mansion unannounced, striding past the servants who scrambled to stop him. His presence was thunder, his fury undeniable. Victoria descended the staircase in her silk robe, irritation flashing across her face. Daniel. To what do I owe this intrusion? Daniel's voice was low, lethal. Tell me, Victoria, what kind of woman poisons a child's body to make sure she never becomes a mother? For the first time, Victoria's mask faltered. So she knows. The words confirmed everything. Daniel's fists clenched. You destroyed her life. You took her choice. And you dared to humiliate her with it. Victoria smirked, recovering quickly. I saved her. Do you think Amelia would have survived childbirth in this house? She was never meant to rise above her station. I did what was necessary. Daniel stepped closer, his voice shaking with rage. No. You did what was cruel. And now you will face the consequences. Victoria tilted her chin, fearless. You think you can touch me? I made your wife what she is today. Without me, she'd still be nothing. Daniel's smile was cold, terrifying. Without you, she would have been free. Now she will be free again, when I tear down everything you've built. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Careful, Daniel. Wars like this don't end with clean hands. Daniel leaned in so close she could feel his breath. Then I'll stain mine gladly, for her. When Daniel returned home, Amelia was still awake. She sat on the edge of their bed, her hands clenched in her lap, her face pale and blotched from crying. The moment their eyes met, her voice came out broken. Tell me. Daniel crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling before her. He took her hands in his eyes burning with equal parts grief and resolve. It's true, he said, the words heavy. She admitted it. She made sure you could never bear a child. Amelia's breath hitched, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Her body trembled as though the ground beneath her had shattered. Daniel pulled her into his chest, holding her as though he could shield her from the cruelty of the world. His voice was low, steady, meant only for her. But listen to me, Amelia. This isn't the end of your story. You are not broken. You are not less. You are mine. And I swear to you, I will destroy anyone who dares say otherwise. Amelia clung to him, her tears falling silently as the truth settled deep into her bones. For the first time that night, though shattered, she believed one thing completely. Daniel would fight for her. And he would never stop. The morning after his confrontation with Victoria, Daniel rose before dawn. He stood at the window of their bedroom, watching Lagos wake up, his arms folded across his chest. Amelia was still asleep, her body curled beneath the sheets, exhaustion written in every line of her face. He turned, his gaze softening as it fell on her. I promised you, Amelia, he whispered under his breath. And I will keep that promise. He reached for his phone. By noon, 3 calls had been made, and 3 storms had been set in motion. The first was to his lawyer. Begin proceedings against Victoria's companies, Daniel instructed. Full audit. Public if necessary. I want every illegal deal, every forged document dragged into the light. And make sure the press gets wind of it. The second was to an old friend in Abuja, a senator who owed Daniel favors. Victoria has ties with certain government contracts. I want those ties severed. Quietly, for now. When the time is right, we'll make the cut bleed. The third call was the most personal. To the CEO of Clarissa's favorite fashion house. Cancel her credit lines. If she wants gowns, she'll pay full price in cash. No exceptions. The man hesitated. Sir, she's influential. Not as influential as me, Daniel replied, his tone like steel. Do it. That evening, he returned home, slipping into the bedroom where Amelia sat by the window, her hair loose around her shoulders, her eyes distant. She looked up at him, searching his face. Where did you go today? Daniel knelt beside her, taking her hands gently. To make sure the world knows who the villains are. Not you. Her lips trembled. But what if they fight back? They always do. He brushed her hair back, his voice low, steady. Then let them. I'm not fighting just to win, Amelia. I'm fighting to end this. For you. For us. Her eyes shimmered, and for the first time since the shopping mall, a spark of hope flickered. Meanwhile, in Victoria's estate, chaos had begun. Her assistant rushed in with trembling hands, dropping documents on her desk. Madam, the contracts with the oil company, they've been suspended. And the papers. What papers? Victoria snapped. Tomorrow's front page. They're exposing financial discrepancies. They have your name on it. Victoria's face darkened, her knuckles whitening as she gripped the edge of the desk. And in her penthouse, Clarissa's scream echoed against the marble floors as her card was declined in front of Lagos's elite shoppers. Her fury burned hotter than ever. This is Daniel's doing. He thinks he can humiliate me? He has no idea who he's dealing with. Back in their home, Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, unbuttoning his cuffs. Amelia crawled closer, resting her cheek against his shoulder. "What happens now?" she whispered. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his voice a quiet vow. "Now, they bleed. Slowly. Publicly. Until nothing of them remains." The news spread like wildfire across Lagos. Victoria's companies were bleeding from Daniel's audit. Contracts were suspended. Investors were pulling out. In 1 week, she went from untouchable to trembling at the edge of ruin. Clarissa fared no better. Her credit lines were slashed, brands quietly cut ties, and society's doors began to slam in her face. For a woman who lived for attention, the silence was a knife. But Amelia? She refused to hide. The charity gala glittered with chandeliers, champagne, and polished diamonds. It was the kind of night Clarissa and Victoria usually ruled, but tonight, Daniel and Amelia entered hand in hand, commanding every eye in the room. Amelia wore a crimson dress with a slit that climbed boldly to her thigh. Her hair cascaded over bare shoulders, and her smile was sharp as glass. Whispers rippled as she passed. She shouldn't be here. After what Clarissa said? Does she not feel shame? But Amelia didn't flinch. She glided through the stairs, her laughter bright, wild, untamed. Daniel's arm rested at her waist, steady, unshakable, his gaze daring anyone to challenge her. Halfway through the evening, Clarissa made her move. She appeared in a silver gown that shimmered under the lights, her eyes narrowing as she approached. Well, she purred loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "The replacement bride graces us with her presence." A hush fell. Guests leaned in, hungry for drama. Amelia turned slowly, her smile widening. "Clarissa," she drawled, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "I'd compliment your gown, but I hear it's hard to look fashionable when the boutique declines your card." Gasps. A ripple of laughter darted through the crowd. Clarissa's face flushed crimson. Amelia stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to slice like a blade. "Next time, darling, maybe you should worry less about my womb and more about your wallet." Victoria tried to cut in, her voice sharp. "Enough, Amelia. You have no place here parading your arrogance." Amelia threw her head back and laughed, a wild, carefree sound that silenced the hall. She turned, eyes glittering as she addressed not just Victoria, but everyone. "No place? I am Mrs. Daniel Maxwell. This is my place. And unlike you, Victoria, I didn't steal or manipulate my way here. I was forced into this marriage, yes, but I turned it into love, into power. Something you will never understand." The crowd gasped again. Phones lifted, recording every word. Amelia's voice rose, strong and fearless. "Let the whole city know, I will never bow to gossip. I will never cower in shame. If you want a scandal, make it big, because I am done hiding." Her words cracked like thunder. Daniel, watching her with pride burning in his chest, finally stepped forward. His arm circled her waist, his voice calm but carrying. "You've all heard enough lies. It ends tonight. My wife is my pride. My only. And anyone who dares insult her will answer to me." The gala erupted into murmurs. Some stunned. Some thrilled. Some terrified. Victoria's face was stone, but Clarissa trembled with fury, her lips quivering as cameras captured every second of her humiliation. Later that night, as they left the hall, Daniel whispered against Amelia's ear, pride thick in his voice. "You stole the night, wild one." Amelia laughed, her arm tightening around his. "They wanted me broken. I gave them fire instead." And behind them, their enemies smoldered, seething, but powerless to stop the storm that had just begun. The weeks that followed the gala were merciless. Victoria's empire crumbled piece by piece. The audits Daniel ordered exposed millions in embezzled funds. Newspapers plastered her name across headlines. Politicians she once controlled turned their backs, desperate to cut ties. Clarissa spiraled faster. With no money, no influence, and her reputation shredded by Amelia's fearless confrontation, she became a laughingstock. The queen of Lagos gossip was reduced to whispers about her own ruin. Then came the final blow. On a bright Tuesday morning, black SUVs rolled into Victoria's estate. Armed officers swarmed through her gates. Clarissa, still in her nightdress, screamed as they dragged her out. Victoria fought harder, shouting threats and denials, but the evidence was stacked too high, her allies too few. By evening, the city was buzzing, Victoria Maxwell and Clarissa arrested for fraud, corruption, and conspiracy. Daniel and Amelia watched the broadcast together. "Is it real?" Amelia whispered, her eyes wide. Daniel pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her hair. "It's over. They can't touch you anymore." After Victoria and Clarissa's downfall, the mansion grew quieter. No whispers of scandal, no footsteps of enemies in the dark. Only laughter, music, and the hum of a love that had survived war. Amelia was freer than ever. She padded barefoot around their wing of the house in silk slips that clung to her curves, humming as she watered the flowers on the balcony. Daniel watched her from the bed, his chest bare, his lips curved into a smile he didn't bother to hide. "You're staring," she teased one evening, glancing over her shoulder as she bent to place the watering can down. "I'm admiring," he corrected, his voice low, deep, filled with hunger. Amelia's grin widened as she walked toward him, swaying her hips just enough to make his throat tighten. She stopped at the edge of the bed, tilting her head playfully. "Still pretending to be blind?" Daniel reached out, catching her wrist, pulling her onto his lap. "Never again." Their mouths met, slow at first, then urgent. Her fingers tangled in his hair, his hands sliding over the silk at her waist. The air thickened with heat, their laughter melting into gasps, the world outside their bedroom forgotten. Their days became filled with teasing touches and nights with tangled sheets. Some mornings, Amelia woke to Daniel pressing kisses along her shoulder, whispering how beautiful she looked even in half-sleep. Some nights, he lifted her into his arms as though she weighed nothing, carrying her from the balcony to their bed, making her laugh before their laughter dissolved into breathless moans muffled against each other's skin. For weeks, they lost themselves in each other. As if every touch, every kiss, every slow and fiery union was a way of erasing the scars Clarissa and Victoria had tried to carve into their lives. It was after one of those nights, when dawn light streamed through the curtains and Amelia lay spent against Daniel's chest, his hand stroking lazy circles against her back, that she felt the first shift inside her body. A missed cycle. A sudden weariness. A hunger she couldn't explain. At first, she dismissed it. But when the doctor smiled at her after the test, Amelia's world tilted. "You're pregnant," the doctor said gently. Amelia froze. The word echoed in her skull. Tears blurred her vision, spilling hot and fast down her cheeks. For years, she believed her body had been stolen from her. And yet, here it was, giving her the very thing she thought she'd lost. Her hands shook as she clutched the result. She whispered through her tears, "It's a miracle." That night, she told Daniel. He had just come out of the shower, his towel low on his hips, his hair damp. She sat on the bed, trembling with anticipation, the test clutched in her hand. "Daniel," she said, her voice unsteady. He looked up, and his entire body stilled when he saw her tears. "Amelia? What is it? What's wrong?" She held out the test, her lips trembling into a smile. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I'm pregnant." For a heartbeat, silence. Then Daniel's towel hit the floor. He crossed the room in 2 strides, lifting her into his arms, spinning her as she laughed through her tears. His lips crashed against hers, his hands framing her face as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "You're carrying my child," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Our child. Amelia, do you know what this means? You've given me more than I ever dared dream." They fell onto the bed, tangled in laughter and kisses, their joy spilling into passion once again, but this time sweeter, fuller, wrapped in the knowledge that their love had created life. Months later, Amelia stood beside Daniel at another gala, her belly gently rounded beneath a flowing gown. This time, there were no whispers of shame. Only admiration. Daniel's hand rested protectively at her waist, his gaze soft and proud. She leaned close, whispering with her wild smile, "We won, Daniel. We burned their lies and came out shining." He kissed her temple, murmuring for her alone, "No, Amelia. You won. You burned brighter than them all. And you'll keep burning, with me, with our child, with our forever." The cameras flashed. The crowd applauded. But Daniel and Amelia only saw each other, two souls who had walked through fire and come out whole, wild, and unbreakable. If Amelia and Daniel's story kept you hooked, don't stop here. Hit subscribe to African Love Chronicles for more unforgettable love stories. Tap like, share this with a friend, and tell us your thoughts in the comments. Your voice keeps the story alive. Thanks for watching. The end.